Welcome back to Julie's Village. I'm glad you're here. A strategy very similar to visual schedules is using task strips. When you think about visual schedules, those are typically used for helping children or youth or anybody that needs it to get through a full day or a portion of the day, where a task strip is meant to just help them to get through a specific task. If you have not yet watched the task analysis episode, I would highly recommend that to help guide this task strip idea and how you might use it and when you might need to use it. Typically, I recommend using task strips if you are looking for task completion or independence throughout the day. Task strips are taking a small portion of the day or a single task within the day and breaking that into its individual steps and then giving some kind of visual cue to help with completing that task. Now, just like with a visual schedule, you will want to think about where your child is at to determine what kind of task strip you need to set up. So just like visual schedules, they can be actual pictures, they can be cartoonish type pictures, they can be just stick figure drawings, or they can be written words. The same applies to task strips. When you're using task strips, again, if you have a student who has very little language or hasn't established a clear communication system yet, or there are cognitive concerns, that is a time when you might consider using pictures of them on your task strip. So you'll take a picture of them doing whatever it is at each individual step of the way, doing what you want them to do, and that helps them to make that connection of I'm being given this picture because I'm supposed to do it. Or if they are a little bit more advanced, then you could do again more of like those cartoon pictures or pictures of somebody else completing the steps. Um, a real person is kind of a middle of the road there between the actual child themselves doing the thing or a cartoon version doing the thing that you're asking for. Or if they are reading and they just need reminders for that independence piece and the written word makes sense to them, they can make connections, you can just write it out for them, and they can complete the task that way. I do have a sample task strip with me that I'll talk just a little bit about. So this first line is the things that they need to do, the things that they did, and another element that you can add that we'll talk about in just a second is reinforcement. So first of all, this first part is to do. You can create um, a task board using anything. You could do like pieces of plastic, um, like strips of plastic, and put Velcro on them, just like with a visual schedule. Construction paper like this with Velcro, a file folder again with Velcro. Um, just about anything you can think of, as long as there is a way for you to show what they need to do and then for a way for them to demonstrate that they completed. It could also again be just a piece of paper with a checklist in a page protector or laminated that they can use dry erase or wet erase just to check off that they did it, or something more like this where they can take it off and then they can move it, physically move it to show that it's completed the task. Or they can take it off and it can go away. It can be put in an envelope or in a little um, pocket or a pouch that says done, or they just know that it's the done place. I had one student that liked to take them and stack them just next to him in his workspace, and that works too. So you'll have the things that they need to do and some way for them to demonstrate that they did it. Now, the reinforcement piece you might consider if you have a student, if you're just trying to foster independence and they are willing to do the tasks, you don't need any kind of reinforcement, just that completing the task is reinforcing to them, taking off that that portion of the task, that icon for that portion of the task is reinforcing enough. But if it is, I don't know how to do it and I don't want to do it, that's when you might consider adding a reinforcement piece. Sometimes I've done things like used pennies from a penny board, and every time that they completed a task, then they put a penny next to the task that they completed. They might remove it and put a penny, or they could replace it with a penny or whatever it is that you're using, or they could put the penny next to the task that they did on the task strip. It doesn't have to be pennies. I have also used stars and smiley faces. You could do little Spider-Man cutouts. You could do unicorn heads, whatever it is that's going to be reinforcing for your child or the child that you're working with. You can print off anything, basically anything that you can find online or that you can draw or take a picture of, you can use that. Or again, some students are highly motivated by those pennies. You can teach money through that. You can have your 5 pennies, and every time that they get to that 5 pennies, they trade that in for a nickel. And you can up the amount of work that they need to do for reinforcement by saying that they have to have 5 nickels traded for a quarter before they can access reinforcement if you needed to do it that way. If you want them to get to reinforcement quicker, they can just do the 5 pennies or the 5 smiles or whatever it is and get to reinforcement. Um, whatever is most motivating for your child, and you're able to get all the way through the task without losing that motivation. If you're having meltdowns trying to get all the way to a quarter by doing 5 nickels or 5 pennies and trading that for a nickel, and 5 nickels equals a quarter, and now you've reached reinforcement. If you're getting meltdowns frequently throughout that, then that's an indicator that it's too much and too long, and you might need to bring it back. And again, some children will need that reinforcement just after the 5. So with these task strips, typically this, again in this example, I did just getting ready to walk out the door on the school day. So it's not the complete getting ready task or the entire morning's worth getting ready, but it is just that last minute check before they walk out the door. This one might represent their agenda, making sure that they've got their agenda and they've stuck it in their backpack. Do you have your backpack? Put your shoes on and grab your lunchbox and grab your coat. You could do these in whatever order makes sense for your child. And this again just gives a visual cue so that you don't have to say, do you have your agenda? Okay, show me your agenda. Okay, now put it in your backpack. Do you have your backpack? Where's your backpack? You can, if you needed to, and like we talked about in that visual schedule episode, you can do a match with this as well. There could be a place that the agenda stays in your home. It comes home, goes out of the backpack, and goes in a certain place, and there's a picture, the same picture right next to the agenda. You might have a hook that the backpack goes on, and right above that hook is a picture of the backpack. You might have a specific cubby that their shoes for school go in, and you might match those specific shoes so that they know that there are certain shoes that you wear to school, maybe certain shoes that you wear to play, certain shoes for snow days, certain shoes for going to church, whatever it is, and these are the shoes that you want them to get that day. You might have a specific spot that the lunchbox goes, and again, there's a picture of the lunchbox, and then again, perhaps a hook or a spot in the closet that the coat goes, and the picture of the coat could be right outside the closet door or next to that hook. And again, the student then would know that they've got to, this is my picture, and they go and match that with the agenda and grab the agenda. And then they match the picture with the backpack and grab the backpack and put the agenda in the backpack. You could also break this up even more by having a picture of the agenda going into the backpack so that they know specifically that's what you want them to do. Again, this eliminates those verbal cues that you need to give and gives independence. You can increase their independence by doing certain things with the task strip, like building it together. And maybe you put on the first picture and then they've got to fill in the next picture or all of the rest of the pictures. That helps them to start thinking through and processing an order of tasks on their own. And that builds that independence as well, because that will eventually help you to be able to fade the task strip because they already know each of the steps. And at some point, you could say, it's time to get ready to go out the door. What are your steps? Or something along those lines. I hope that this was helpful. If this was helpful to you and you feel like it might be helpful to others, I invite you to like, share, subscribe. If there are other topics that you would like to see covered in future episodes, I invite you to leave those suggestions in the comments, or if there are people that you would like to see on an episode, please feel free to include that in the comments as well. Thank you so much. Goodbye.